Rangers fans, welcome to season 4 of Liberty Blue, the essential New York Rangers podcast powered by Believe Network and also presented by FanDuel. I'm Andrew Chelney. That's Nick Zararis. The NHL is at the Olympic break. We'll get into what the Rangers could get for Vinny Trocheck, who's a 12-team no trade clause. We'll get into what kind of goaltending this team would need, scoring just over 2 goals a game per night, and a whole lot more. Nick, we're at least everybody gets a break for a little bit.
It's nice in a season like this that feels like it's never going to end, and they still have 25 games remaining after the Olympic break, which sounds crazy to say considering there's only 6 calendar weeks from the end of February. We come back, I think, the 28th, 27th, something like that. And then we go to the middle of April, and we're going to squeeze in 25 games, excuse me, in a 6 weeks period. And for a team like the Rangers that has been done since middle of December, this is going to be like pulling teeth for the guys on the team who are playing for their way onto the team next year in spite of the environment around them. And that's the first thing I think that's an interesting talking point, something worth talking about. When we say a team is tanking, and we've discussed this before, the guys who are going out there don't know if they're going to be on the team the next year. The coach doesn't know. In this case, we know Mike Sullivan will be here next year, but nobody who is directly in the on ice operation is going out there with the mentality, let's lose tonight. The game is too dangerous. It is too fast, and opponents don't care. They will gladly beat you into a pulp and hang a 7 spot on you and embarrass you. So the guys who are going to be here post deadline, and we imagine Trocheck probably gets traded, maybe Schneider, maybe someone we're not thinking of, maybe a Lafreniere hockey trade, 1-for-1 type deal. The final 25 games are really going to be a referendum on who wants to be here. And you could earn a lot of respect and a lot of leeway with not just the organization, but with the public. If this team over the final 25 games continues to go like the Titanic, like it looks like it's going to, and you're the one bright spot, if you're somebody who is showing a discernible, noticeable effort down the backstretch of these games when they don't matter effectively, that says a lot about you as a person, as a hockey player. And with the last 15 months going the way they have for this team, it would be really nice for someone to do that. I'm not even saying put up crazy stats, be noticeable. Put in more than a bare minimum effort. Put in more effort than JT Miller does on a regular, consistent basis. And maybe you'll get some respect out of us because I saw people talking about it on Reddit the other day. Who's going to win the Stephen McDonald Award this year? And like the arguments are like Sam Carrick, and that's really it. And I think if we're nominating the fourth line center for the extra effort award, something has gone horrendously wrong. No disrespect to Sam Carrick, who we have highlighted as being one of the two guys who seems to care on a given basis. Him and Jonathan Quick being the only two guys who seem to not want to get kicked in the teeth as they lose every game the rest of the way. It's going to be really rough. There's no other way to put it. Even with Fox and Shesterkin probably coming back after the Olympic break, they're still not going to be able to score. And they couldn't score with Panarin. Now you're not going to have Panarin. You probably won't have Trocheck. It is going to be as tough sledding as we have seen. It might not get as bad roster wise as 2018, where it was Ryan Sproul and Rob O'Gara and Neil Pionk and John Gilmore. But this is going to be a really rough roster post trade deadline.
And it only gets worse when, somebody like Ken Campbell, who used to write for the Hockey News for a long time, he posted something about Liam Greentree. And this is something that, you know, just has a big question mark around me. And a lot of people kind of seem to have the same questions.
He
Like,
was supposed to go on a podcast too, and he pulled out
yeah,
of that
Liam
at the
Greentree
last minute
was
too.
yeah, Liam Greentree was supposed to go on a podcast. I think the Rangers, his OHL team nixed it. Ken Campbell quote tweeted this. He said, "Oh, he does write for the Hockey News. I apologize. I wanted to talk to Liam Greentree Friday night about the Artemi Panarin trade, but the Rangers sent a message to the Windsor Spitfires after the deal, forbidding him to say anything about it." And then Scott Wheeler added on to that and said, "But having worked with all 32 teams on features on their kids, I can say that the Rangers are the only organization this controlling of their prospects." And this kind of blanket steel curtain on everything that goes on in this organization is why everyone walks on pins and needles, is why there's this glove, handle with gloves and with caution approach when it comes to even, the team account posting on social media. There's nothing fun happening ever at this point because they've nixed everything. I don't know if they're doing road content now because they didn't do it last year, but like, all of this, we won't tell you anything, and we're paranoid, or we don't want a single word coming out. It's like, I hate to break it to you guys, but yeah, you're the Rangers, but hockey's still a niche sport, man. Like, you need all the publication you can get. You need the publicity. You need people talking about your team. You need it. You need the media. Even if you're the Rangers, even if you're, an original six team, hockey is still far behind all the other leagues, at least in America. Obviously in Canada, hockey is number one, but in America at least, it's still not the like it trails behind the other three pretty significantly. You're not gonna get, like, even if you get, you know the Bad Bunny equivalent of whoever the NHL would hire for like a first period intermission performance, right? Like, Bad Bunny got like 150 million concurrent viewers during the Super Bowl. NHL is not getting that ever.
No, the most viewed hockey game of the 21st century was the gold medal game in 2010, and that was 130 million, and that wasn't concurrent. So, just for
Yeah,
perspective, for
right.
context,
Like,
that's as big an environment, a spectacle as you can get. Winter Olympics on a Sunday, 3 o'clock, like as
yeah,
big for hockey as you could get, and they were still 20 million short.
The Rangers need public, like, people talking about them, just like every other team. And it's the fact that, it's not even about the main team. The people that wanted to talk to Liam about, being a part of the organization, like what this means for him, et cetera, et cetera. And the Rangers were like, no, you can't talk to him. That's kind of foreboding. And that kind of, if you zoom out a second, you kind of think, okay, wait, like, this is actually, a bigger problem than, people want to admit. Like, this is not good. No matter what, even if you are pro jury, anti jury, like, regardless of where you stand, an organization being this, tight lipped about everything that you can't even go and talk to your new, the organization's newest prospect. It's just not a good look. This is bad.
It's paranoia. That's all it is. Because what could this child who has not played on your team, who hasn't been to a development camp, hasn't been to a rookie camp, hasn't been to a training camp, what could he possibly say about your organization on the phone? Would you, are you worried that people are going to ask him, well, you got traded for Artemi Panarin? Do you worry about the responsibilities and the expectations of that? Like, and there are two schools of thought with this. You can go one of two ways when in crisis comms. You either do radio silence the way the Rangers do, or you flood the zone. And the Rangers have never tried to flood the zone ever. And I think that's very concerted and very strategic. And I think a lot of that stems from the way James Dolan feels about the media. We know he's not exactly the biggest endorser of the free press at the moment, or in general, I should say, not at the moment. He's been very reticent about not just with the Rangers, with the Knicks as well, with him going on the record talking about things as well. So and the thing is, when the team is good, you can get away with this. When the team is good, everybody thinks it's amusing that, oh, he couldn't tell us, wink, wink, nod, nod, or I'll tell you when they go out for warmups who the starting goalie is, and everybody laughs and finds it amusing when the team is good. Now that you need information, and all we can get is anonymous sources, second and third hand, which are apparently wrong now because you saw how the Panarin trade market developed last week. You can get away with this. And the thing is, you saw it last week. The Rangers, they didn't do a public availability. They did a Zoom call that was 15 minutes and had about 6 questions. That was live tweeted, wasn't recorded anywhere, wasn't streamed anywhere, wasn't published anywhere, because they are that concerned about the narratives right now. And I think to some degree, they are hoping to wait this out. I think in my head, at least in my head, I think they are going to try and get to the trade deadline, and then they're going to have their crop of whatever they get in return for whoever else they trade. Green Tree won't play in the NHL until next year, but they are going to try and wait this out and hope that our attention spans are too fried. They're going to hope that our the fact that we still have to go through the rest of this season is going to effectively will us into submission. That we're just going to give up being upset or mad about the state of the team. You know, the last home game, there were plenty of the fire Drury chants, and I imagine those will continue as the season goes along. But I do think it's important that we maintain that posture. That even if nothing's going to change, you can't just roll over and give up. Even if the organization continues to leak out, he's on steady ground, his seat's not hot, whatever. Okay, that's great. That doesn't mean we have to accept that. That doesn't mean we just give up. You know, I got into an argument with somebody over the weekend that had said something along the lines of, if you hate the team so much, why don't you root for another team? Well, I don't hate the team. I hate the person running the team the way he is. So if we can make the situation better, we should talk about that as opposed to just solidarily eating shit. You know, you want to participate in, you want to make society better, yet you participate in society. Yes, I would like the Rangers to be better. I am still a Ranger fan. You can hold those two thoughts concurrently at the same time. That's good. You should be expecting that. The Rangers are a business trying to sell you a product. You shouldn't just accept this is the product. That's how you get crap. That's why everything is made terribly now, because four people make everything. So there's no standards and there's no quality. So you get crap no matter what you order from where you order. That's the conundrum you're facing right now. I wouldn't go to a game right now. If you're still going to go, God bless. I appreciate you wanting to, but at this point, it's all we got. All we got is being able to yell into the void, because otherwise, otherwise they win. That's what it comes down to. If you give up, they win no matter what. You are better off trying and not getting your way than just putting your hands up and saying, "Well, they're not going to fire him, so why do I talk about it?"
I hate people that just say, go root for a different team. Brother, like I hate to break it to you, but if things aren't going well in, like if you have a broken sink in the kitchen, you don't just say, "Oh, why don't you just go buy a new house?" You fix the sink. What are we talking about here? I hate people like that just don't make any sense to me. And we'll get comments all the time that that we're too negative, that we're too this or we're too that. And it's like, okay, well,
They're in dead last.
you're
What is there
looking at
positive to talk
gestures,
about?
like look at what's going on with this team. I would love to know where these people think that we could be, who can we even glaze? And by the way, we've been
Odds that you're
glazing.
still going to hurt. Those are the
Yeah,
only guys
we
worth
like
glazing.
the people that have deserved it, like Sam Carrick. We've been very positive about.
Yeah.
Like Sam Carrick has really been one of the few shining lights on this team. He has really been playing well for what his role is. He's going out there and
And he
he's
gives a
actually
shit, which I can say a
yeah,
lot
like he
more.
cares. He cares. He doesn't want to lose like this. And he's one of the few players that actively goes out on every shift and at least tries to make something happen. And I have a lot of respect for Sam Carrick as a result. And but the list of people that are like that on this team right now is very short. So like the people that are in our comments saying that we're too negative, or people that are telling you to go root for the other team. It's like I this is
Do you want to be
again
bad? That's
this,
the thing that
yeah,
kills
right.
me.
Like
Like,
this
if
is
we just sit here and say nothing,
yeah.
what's the alternative? Just accept the team being terrible?
Yeah, if you zoom out for a second, this is a problem in broader society, and you made the society joke a second ago. Like, it, instead of being like, "Hey, this is bad, and we should do something about this," you really have a chunk of the population going, "Okay, well, if you don't like it so much, then move or get out." It's like, no, but I like it here and I want things to be better. Don't you want things to be better? You don't have to accept things the way that they are just because you're here. You can expect better. You can demand better. You can try to make things not as bad as they currently are. So that's what we're doing here when it comes to the Rangers. Like, we love the Rangers and we want this team to succeed. But as of right now, this is only going to get from bad to worse. And these if people are in our comments saying that we're too negative now, we got 25 more games of this. And this will be without Schneider. This will be without Trocheck moving forward. I would imagine they're going to get traded before the deadline. I would think so. And maybe a couple more trades. Like, this team is going to sell, and they can't score goals with Panarin. Now Panarin's gone. Even when Fox comes back, okay, like, yeah, they'll be able to generate a little bit more from the blue line, but they're still missing like 3 top 6 forwards, 4 top 6 forwards. Like, they're not going to generate anything on offense either way. So this is going to be one of the roughest patches in Rangers history as it pertains to just being able to score goals. They're not going to win a whole bunch of games. That's a given. But these games will just point blank not be very fun to watch if you're just a spectator. So it the idea that we or whomstever needs to just either give up or not say anything when it comes to things that can be improved on is a generationally awful take. I'll just say that.
Again, because what's the alternative? Just allowing things to continue the way they are? And yeah, does my individual voice matter a whole lot in the direction of the Rangers? No. But if you just accept that it can't be fixed, so we just suck it up, the internet has a lot of drawbacks, but being able to at least attempt to collectivize and organize makes it so you can get basic messages like this out there. Because if you just accept this, that, all right, the season's over, the rest of the games don't matter, the building is going to be full no matter what, the Rangers are, as close to an ironclad product as possible that they will always sell out no matter what, then what do we do? Then what's there to talk about? Because the team, there's nothing to talk about on a game to game basis anymore. The games don't matter. The guys who are on the team, the captain of the team gives beer league level effort 3 times a week. And we're supposed to talk about that? I'm supposed to talk about them having one good defenseman out of 6 right now. I'm supposed to talk about Spencer Martin or Jonathan Quick. God bless Jonathan Quick. He's 40. He's got an 80 save percentage right now. That's what we're supposed to talk about. We're supposed to talk about Zibanejad stat padding on a bad team. I don't understand how people are getting lost in the weeds here. Until the direction of the team changes, the games don't matter. Until there's a new GM or a president of hockey operations in between the GM and the owner, until something materially changes about these circumstances, nothing is going to happen. Look, they traded the best player they've had in the 21st century, best forward they've had in the 21st century, for a guy whose like ceiling is Will Cooley. And like again, Will Cooley's a good player, but he's a top 9 forward. On a Stanley Cup winning team, he's probably the third line left wing. If you want to build an entire team of second and third liners and second and third pair defensemen and try and defense your way to a Stanley Cup in 2026, you've lost the plot. We're going to talk about the goaltending stuff in a minute, but the league average save percentage right now is 890. To win consistently in an environment where the average team save percentage is 890, you're talking you need to be like 20-30% better than average. That's not a strategy. You can't tell the goalie, hey, I need you to be the best goalie in the world every single night or we will lose. Because that's what the Rangers are doing right now. When Shesterkin was healthy, his wins and losses weren't great, but his save percentage top 7 or 8 amongst the goalies. Like he's sitting at 913 right now, which is top 10 in the league of qualified starters. His goal saved above expected is top 10. And they were still out of a playoff spot with great goaltending. So you're saying not only do we need great goaltending, we need superhuman goaltending all of the time. And then anytime we can't play our starter, it's a guaranteed loss because the drop off from that starter to the backup is so extreme. There is no world in which you're going to convince me that this is a tenable or okay situation. They came into the year talking we're going to make the playoffs and win a round or two. And they are in dead last in the Eastern Conference. And if it weren't for the Canucks waving the white flag in the first week of December, they could be pushing for dead last in the entire NHL right
And according to hockey stats, the Rangers have the 4th highest chances of drafting first overall. They have an 11% chance of drafting first overall. Only Chicago at 12, St. Louis at 12, and Vancouver at 25 have higher chances. So that's where we're at. And again, like it'd be one thing if the Rangers had a Sharks thing going on, right? Where they're purposely bad, but they have, all of their young guys playing top 6 minutes and they're just going like, all right, well, go out there, do what you got to do. Because we know that if you do this for a little bit of time and be bad in the beginning, you'll be much better, moving forward. Like Celebrini very early on in his career was not incredible, right? He wasn't Schaefer like of okay, game one, he's all of a sudden, making all-star teams and is one of the best in his position, right? Like, especially on a team like San Jose where you I mean, that team, like you watch, like even I remember like they got, they lost 10-2 against Vancouver a couple of times, like once, and they just like they were an unmitigated disaster for a while. But they kept playing their but at least for them, they had a clear vision, and they understood where they needed to go. And yeah, it wasn't fun to be a Sharks fan for a little bit, but hey, they got through that, and now look at where they are. They might not make the playoffs, but they are one of the most improved teams in the league. They have one of the youngest cores in the league. I think Askarov needs to be better and more consistent in San Jose, but once he kind of figures that out, San Jose is going to be a dangerous team. Like, they had a plan, they had a vision, and they played all their young guys. The Rangers right now, yeah, they're playing Matthew Perreault or Gabriel Perreault. Yeah, Matthew Perreault's his dad, I think, right? Like,
Yannick
yeah,
Perreault's his dad. Matthew Perreault might be like doing taxes somewhere.
yeah, Gabriel Perreault, in top 6 minutes, and they're putting Cooley and Laba in these like middle nine positions, but like they don't have someone that they could just put onto the first line and then just say, here, go play with Zibanejad, be bad, and that's okay because you're playing with Zibanejad, who can feed you the puck, and you can feed Zibanejad the puck, and he's somebody that you can learn off of to become a better player. They don't have anybody like that. And so when you're this bad with not really any end in sight to this, that is when, frustrations boil over and people will chant your name, because it's one thing to be bad. It's another thing to be bad with, you look at the road ahead of you and it's bleak. That is the biggest difference here. At least if you're a Sharks fan, or I guess like the Sabres fans knew a whole lot about this for the past like 16 years, until now they finally, I don't want to jinx anything, but it does look like they're gonna make it, they're finally get the playoffs this year. Like, if you're a Sharks fan, yeah, you were upset. You didn't really want to go to any of those games early on, but at least you understood that there is a vision in mind, and this is where like you have to suffer now, because in 2 years Celebrini is going to be a lot better, right? Will Smith and and Misa and all these guys are going to be much better than what they currently are, and then they'll build around that young core, and then they'll potentially be a playoff team, which is what they are now, right? With the Rangers, who are they building around right now? Who are
They
they
have a lot
building
of middle
around?
sixers. That's
They're
it.
building around JT Miller, a guy who even Elliot Friedman on his podcast was like, yeah, like there's a problem, right? That, that the TLDR of what he said was like, like JT Miller has kind of been an issue. Like, okay, so he's your captain. He's locked up until 2030. You're building around him and Zibanejad right now. Two guys that are playing on a team that's dead last, that are in their, mid 30s. There is no young core to build around right now. And that is where a lot of the frustration comes from. And if you're trading Panarin, and in return, the best prospect you could get is Liam Greentree, a 19-year-old overager in the OHL, who, is having a decent season, but he's a massive guy and he's overage and he's having an okay season, and that's a red flag in and of itself. That's a problem, and that just leads to the greater frustration that the Rangers fan base currently has.
It's it's a tough sell. That's the thing, man. You don't have to accept this. This is going to be a very average hockey team at best. And that's if the guys they get in return work. And, it gets back to what we had talked about with Aaron trade last week. It's what we'll get to talk about with a potential Trocheck trade. When you are screwed and everyone else knows you're screwed, you're going to get terrible offers. What are the what incentive does Bill Guerin have to give you what you ask for Vincent Trocheck if you're trying to save your job? Maybe they're friends and it's different, and Bill Guerin won't rate Drury over the coals, but you look at the state of the team and how desperate they are, and that's how I know we're screwed. Is that the Cope talking points went out within a day? That no, Panarin's not actually the best asset they have. Trocheck is. Within a day. The Cope talking points went out, and the perception. Well, Drury's hands were tied. Well, who tied his hands? Somebody tied them himself. I hate the way they use passive voice to talk about the situation, the state of the team. I have a hard time blaming Drury for the corner he was backed into. Well, who backed him into the corner? Why does he need to trade the best free agent the team has ever signed for maybe a second line winger? What? Why? Because he did such a bad job over the last 2 years managing both the people and the roster that they are in dead last in the Eastern Conference, and it's February. And they still have to go through another 25 games, and they still need to sell assets off. And that's if you get good returns. You said it before. Who are we building around? The talking point amongst the Copers is, well, whoever we get for Trocheck, that's going to be the best prospect we get. Great. Okay. Are they going to play every game the rest of the way? Because apparently we got to scratch Gabriel Perreault to play Anton Blythe for whatever. Excuse me, scratch Brennan Othmann to play Anton Blythe. You can't sell me on this because everyone is so full of it all of the time. No,
Yeah.
actually, it wasn't for roster management reasons. We just wanted him to sit.
Well,
After before the
I to interrupt you for a second, like the reason why they scratched Othmann was so that he could be sent down and play in Hartford. I was
But then
upset.
Sullivan, after the game, said that wasn't the case. He said it was a coach's decision,
Well,
which
then,
is what,
like,
which
yeah,
is,
you know,
again, like, lie. Look better about it.
right,
Use the
right.
stupid CBA reason because there's nothing to gain. Blythe's been in the AHL forever and he hasn't broken through. You know what he is. If we're going to do the same old inconsistent, well, the young guys play by one set of rules and the veterans the other, we don't have any credibility. You can't look me in the face and say JT Miller has deserved to play every game he's been healthy for if we're going to scratch Othmann, who plays 12 minutes a game for whatever reason. And look, Othmann has been He's been a C plus at best for good stretches of this NHL stint. I'd rather find out for sure he's bad than continue to do the merry-go-round of random players. Get as much information as you can from the guys you have, as opposed to continuing to kick the can down the road. Because that's what this feels like to me. This feels like everybody involved trying to buy themselves more time and more leeway by, well, we can't make a determination yet. And we are just going to keep doing that indefinitely. Well, we don't know how good he is yet. He hasn't played. Well, why hasn't he played? Well, coach's decision. Well, why is that the coach's decision? We can talk in circles all you want. This is ridiculous. This team is in dead last, and we're playing career AHLers over guys who were 16th overall picks. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is, and this has been a problem for the Rangers for a long time now. We always make fun of Colin Blackwell playing over Alexis Lafreniere, right? When David Quinn was the head coach, and the fact that the Rangers saw how that essentially stunted Lafreniere's career, and now they're doing it again with other prospects is it just sucks. Like it sucks for us as the fans and people in the media and all that, but also just sucks for the people, man. Like we forget, again, we have to think about yeah, we could talk about these guys on the ice and whatever. They're still people. Like this sucks. If you're, like I feel bad for Lafreniere and how his early development was handled. I think it was mishandled. And I feel bad for the guy as a result. Now he's a first overall pick, and at the same time, he definitely he needs to be playing better. And and we've talked a good amount about Lafreniere and his struggles and why he just isn't the phenom that we thought he was going to be at length on this podcast. But I'm here to tell you, as a human being, I feel bad for Lafreniere and and prospects like that. And if it's Othmann right now or whomsoever it is, I feel bad for these guys because their development is being stunted. If you really want to develop young players, you have to take a good look at what's going on within your organization. Hartford is just terrible. The Rangers right now have clearly built a record of not being able to produce prospects. They clearly have, the you have Laba, you have Cooley that are some of the outliers, but overall, they have there's been a proven track record of not being able to develop prospects properly. And I feel bad for all of the guys that are involved in that. So, you mean to tell me, okay, you're gonna trade some Trocheck for some big shot prospect, what confidence do I have to think that that development is going to go well? And that is another question that if you're Drury or whoever in Rangers management, you have to ask yourself. Because again, me just saying it, I'm not making this up. There's a proven track record of prospects being mismanaged by the Rangers organization. So if I'm sitting here on the outside looking in and I'm questioning, okay, you might get the best prospect in the world for Trocheck, in some in an imaginary world, like, what do you have to go off of to make me believe in recent times that you can develop this player into the player that everybody thinks they can be, or maybe even better than that? I like, you have to prove it to me. You can't just tell me these things. And we mentioned it on the podcast before. Don't tell me there's no BS. Show me there's no BS. Don't tell me you can develop a prospect. Go out there and actually develop the prospect. Show me that you can make this guy, whomstever it's going to be, into I don't know, a second line center or a first line center, or whatever you get. I want to see prospect development. Until then, at least for me personally, I can understand why people don't have a lot of confidence in the Rangers trading for a prospect.
And they won't. Well, you heard the general manager last week. Drafting and development; those are two big things a lot of people talk about and care about. They don't take this seriously. And that's what irks me. It's one thing for your team to be bad. It's another thing for your team to be bad and then to actively have contempt for the general public to the point the front office very visibly does. You can't even be bothered to show your face. You're so scared of consequences. You're so scared you can't do a press conference live. You have to do a Zoom call privately and nobody can record it and you can only live tweet statements given. He doesn't have credibility with anyone other than the owner, apparently, who's the only person who believes this. I was talking about this over the weekend with somebody who had asked me, why is nobody in hockey media really putting his feet to the coals? And what I said was, I genuinely think because James Dolan's not a hockey guy, he doesn't know the questions to ask. So when Drury says, like, yeah, we're going to get assets back in these trades and we're going to set the team up. Okay. The next question, obviously, is who are we going to get? Who are you targeting? Why do you want them? And from there, you can start to extrapolate outward. But I think genuinely, and I forget whose article it is. I want to say it was Vince a few weeks ago. It said that Drury and Dolan talk pretty frequently and directly, that if he can just say whatever to James Dolan, because he's not grinding the tape, he's not watching a Sharks game at 10 o'clock on a Thursday. If you can say whatever you want to the person you're accountable to, and they don't know how to keep track of what you're telling them, it's pretty hard for that person to know. And it's not that I have empathy. I mean, James Dolan's a billionaire and can watch as much hockey as he wants. But at the same time, if he doesn't know the questions to ask, he doesn't. And if the GM can say, yeah, we're going to win with defense and goaltending, and that's the entire ethos of what we got. It's pretty easy for me to see a world where Dolan can believe that. Like, I pay Shesterkin the most any goalie's ever been paid in the history of the league. We have Adam Fox. That should be enough to build a team around to be competitive. And if he can convince me, okay, we got to sell off our expensive older guys, and we got to get younger, we got to get more athletic, we got to get faster. I can see a world where that's conceivable, where that's plausible, because it doesn't match up with what we're seeing from the way the team is being run right now. But if that's what's being said, and ultimately it sucks to have to do this much tea leaf reading and inside baseball stuff, but without lack of a clear cut explanation, all we can do is try and guess and make educated, informed guesses, because we don't know why James Dolan has so much confidence in him in spite of everything over the last 2 years. Because to your point, even if you get the slam dunk great return for Trocheck or for Schneider or for Lafreniere, you still need to give those guys time. And you don't have time because, as you said last segment, Zibanejad and Miller are both 32. They're not getting any younger. So even if you get good returns for Trocheck and Lafreniere and whoever, you still need probably a year or two for those guys to become impactful contributors. And then at that point, you're dealing with 33, 34-year-olds. And are you going to be a serious contender with first and second line center that are 34, 35. It's really hard for me to see a world where that's the case.
Yeah, like they're right now the Rangers are trying to have 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Where okay, well we have, we're trying to build for the future and we're trying to get these prospects and oh we got Liam Greentree, huzzah. Okay, well right now you're the worst team in the East and your top two forwards as of now are Zabinajad and Miller who are into their 30s and right now are playing on a team that's dead last in the Eastern Conference. So by the time Liam Greentree and whomsoever the Rangers acquire for Trocheck and Schneider and whatever are going to be able to play consistently in the NHL, where do you see those two guys being? Are they still here? And if they are still here, what kind of contributions can they give to this team? And don't give me, oh well, JT Miller was good, if you like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because you need to think about what they are going to do 2 years from now, not what they did for you before. It's like, this is a very "what have you done for me lately" kind of question, where we're not talking about the resume. We're talking about you're applying if your whole, you know, resume is in economics and you're applying to build spaceships, like your resume is great, but that doesn't matter because what can you do for me now? Wait, you can't build spaceships. Then what are you doing here? Like, you got to go. Like, we're not going to take you. Like, this is the same kind of logic that you have to apply to these situations. We talked about this with Patrick Kane years ago. Yeah, his resume was terrific. He was playing on one hip and he was cherry picking the whole time. So we were very much against the trade, and lo and behold, he scored that one goal that every Rangers fan that loves Patrick Kane loves to harp on. But overall, you watch the rest of his tape, and it's like, okay, well, he's just kind of a guy out there. Like this is the same kind of thought process that you have to apply to the situation. Like, yeah, Miller, has been a great player throughout his career, and is somebody that could have provided a good amount of value. But think about what he's going to be 2 years from now. This year, a lot of people are upset at JT Miller, his effort, his performance, his lack of back checking. Right, there's a lot of his overtime prowess has been great, but everything else has just been a whole lot of oh I don't know what's going on. Like we have to rethink and refocus or whatever. But like think about where Miller, Trocheck, if well not Trocheck, Zabinajad, where these guys are going to be 2 years from now. Because if this is where they are now, and the Rangers are the worst team in the East, what's going to happen 2 years from now when they maybe have Liam Greentree as their, as their right winger or whatever they get at this point? Like if we have problems with them now, just fast forward 2 years because it's not going to get magically better.
Oh, and that's why I'm so like you got to keep up the drumbeat now because we'll reach a tipping point where this gets to like 2002 Glenn Sather where he's GM for life because that's the thing. And look, I know the media ecosystem of 20 years ago is very different, but Glenn Sather got hired for his first job in the Rangers front office in like 1998, and he was GM through 2015. Hell, Jeff Gorton, for all the complaining people do, he got 6 years. We're going to get to a tipping point, and the sooner you get to that tipping point, the sooner you can start to take action, whatever that looks like. Even if it's only hiring an intermediary between Drury and the owner, you need something to change because nothing about the way the operation is going right now works. The AHL system is a mess. The coaching staff at the AHL level is a mess. Hell, the coaching staff at the NHL level is starting to irk me with the lineup management. We're wasting timeouts with a minute left, down 3 goals to draw up plays. What could David Quinn possibly be drawing up on the dry erase board down 3 goals with a minute and a half to go? Do you have a 3 goal play? Do you have a secret play that's worth 3 goals? Because it'd be great. We can't score one, so if we can turn one into three, that would be tremendous. But I'm so tired of feeling like I'm getting my time wasted because that's what it feels like right now. Anytime I put the Rangers on, I feel like I'm wasting 2.5 hours because I'm not getting anything out of it. I'm not even getting, okay, well, at least Noah Laba's doing something. It doesn't matter. At best, he's going to be a third line center. Ideally, he'd be a fourth line center on a good team. And if we have to hang our hat on is third and fourth liners, we're never going to be good again. Yeah. And I don't want to hear about Brady Tkachuk. I don't want to hear about Jason Robertson. Who are the Rangers trading for those? Who do the Rangers have assets wise that nearly equivocates to that? Any of the prospects who don't pan out? All the first round picks that are in the teens and the 20s, they've gotten in trades. Somebody had texted me the other day. We had talked about it a few weeks ago. Nobody has traded out of a top 10 pick since the Daniel Sedin draft in what was that, 98, 99, something like that. That was the last time a team traded out of a spot in the top 10 of the draft out. So don't tell me, oh, they're going to go trade up for McKenna or Ehrhoff or whoever. They're not. That doesn't happen anymore. That world does not exist. Your path to relevancy in the NHL is through star players. You don't have a single star forward in your midst. You say all you want about JT Miller until he starts playing like one, he doesn't get to be called a star anymore.
But yeah, he's on the Olympic team, so there's that. Yeah, I mean, like the Olympics at large too. I guess we'll quickly talk about that because it's on the agenda. It's like, you know, there was, I think it was Greg Wyshynski who put out the article that was like, oh well, you might not agree with.
No, that was Michael Russo. I think it was Michael Russo.
Was that Russo? No, I think
it was in the Athletic. It wasn't Wisniewski, but it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, like there was an article, the other day that was like, oh well, you might not agree with everything that Billy Guerin did, but you got to respect the decision to you got to respect the gall for him to do that. Do I? Like, here's the thing. I respect Billy Guerin's decision to trade for Quinn Hughes.
I respect Bill Guerin as a hockey player. He had a really nice career.
I respect Bill Guerin as a hockey player. Yeah, and I respect Billy Guerin's approach to trading for Quinn Hughes and really going all in on a team that needs it, an organization that needs it. Right? You might not agree with every single move that he's done with the Wild, etc. But I love the trade for Minnesota to get Quinn Hughes. I think he did a great job there, even if the cost was high. I think it's still worth it for a team that has never been out of the first round, if I'm not mistaken. Like this is a trade that you do to really try to make that happen. And I love that. Also at the same time, no, I despise the decisions that Billy Guerin did when it comes to leaving Jason Robertson at home for JT Miller, a guy who, we've been talking about the entire season as like, what does he do here? All he does is wear the no BS shirts and talk. Like, it's disappointing. Like it's so frustrating how I would love to be sitting here and talking about how JT Miller has become a leader on the team and is really leading by example. But when you look at him play and he's kind of just skating around and not really paying attention and just not contributing to the team, I have a difficult time believing that a player that is seemingly caring this little about the result of the game deserves to play on Team USA over a guy like Jason Robertson. JT Miller, it'd be one thing if like JT Miller was like a defenseman, then the conversation would kind of be silly. But they're both centers. You're telling me Robertson plays a little wing too, but you get my point. Like he can play center if necessary. Like you're telling me that JT Miller deserves to be on Team USA more than Jason Robertson does? You're telling me that this
or
Caulfield one of the
any
best
number
goal
of players.
scorers in the sport right now. And by the way, he can kill penalties. He can play defense. Like he can do all of those things. He is an all-around great player. And you're sitting him because of reasons? Because you like JT Miller more as a person or something, I guess. I don't know. Like these are the kinds of decisions, like, and the Adam Fox thing was egregious off the rip. Now I understand that he's hurt. He might not have been able to play in the Olympics as is, but when the original decision was made, Adam Fox was not injured. He was healthy. And you're putting Seth Jones into that lineup over Adam Fox, and it's very silly and it deserves criticism. It deserves pushback on it. And I don't by any circumstances have to give it to him for making those decisions because objectively they're bad. They are bad decisions. He made a lot of great decisions throughout his career as a player, as an executive, and I'll give him all those flowers for that. But when it comes to the Olympic roster, this is a best on best team, and you did not put your best out there, and that deserves objective criticism. I hate to, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills by needing to say that out loud, but it's the truth.
So somebody had tweeted it a few days ago, the Brandon Hagel quote graphic after they won the final of the Four Nations, where he said they can have all the group chats they want. We won, and ultimately, that's the way I look at a lot of the way USA Hockey operates, and the way I look at a lot of the way Chris Drury operates as general manager of the Rangers. They like gimmicks. They like narratives. It's not so much about winning. It's great. The U.S. won the first time they played Canada. They People don't remember the U.S. winning that game. They remember the 3 fights to start the game because they like gimmicks. They like narratives. It's very easy to tell somebody, yeah, Matthew and Brady Tkachuk, they're like the 2 kids from the Mighty Ducks movies. They hit everything that moves. They're really good. Great. Do they win? Matthew does. Brady doesn't. Okay. It's the same exact conversation we had a few weeks ago about the idea that you framing your entire existence around the Miracle on Ice as being your guiding light is why USA Hockey.
Mark Lazarus, by the way, was the writer.
I knew it was The Athletic, yeah.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
what you're talking about gimmicks and narratives, like they couldn't help themselves. The Tkachuk brothers, yeah, we had a group chat. We planned we were going to start the game with a fight. I don't know, man. I find that stuff very corny. I find that stuff very cheesy. Like, it's one thing to do it. It's another thing to come out and be like, yeah, we did it. Aren't we so cool? We staged a fight to start an international game to let them know how much we cared. Dude, it's hockey. Win. You can let me know how much you care by winning the games. And that's ultimately what this comes down to, and why, to your point, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. The Wild have never won a playoff series with Bill Guerin as their GM. And you get people, he was the assistant GM when the Penguins won their cups. Yeah, Rick Tocchet was an assistant coach on those teams. That doesn't mean anything. I could have I could have helped the Penguins win a Stanley Cup in their front office with the 16, 17 teams. Those teams were incredible. Those teams were playing Phil Kessel on the third line. It wouldn't have been that hard to get good results out of that team. And it's the same exact stuff with the Rangers. It's not that we're going to play with a certain mentality. It's we have t-shirts about our mentality. That's how much we believe in it. It's not just that we have JT Miller. What we got to have Matt Rempe too, because he drags us into the fight. We have Sam Carrick. We have all these guys who are going to drag us into the fight and let us know how much we care about winning. Do you? Do you? God's honest. Do you care about winning, or do you want to win in your way? And that's what I mean when I say gimmicks. It's the same thing with the USA Hockey guys picking Trocheck and Miller over. You could say Gauthier, you could say Cutter Gauthier, Jason Robertson, Cole Caulfield. There are a number of guys. If you wanted penalty kill and power play, you could have brought Kreider. There are any number of guys you could have brought. JT Miller wasn't taking line rushes. And then the thing that's going to irk me is Jack Hughes not healthy. No way. Like, he's going to get cleared to play. No way he feels good. No way he's healthy after sitting the last 3 games before the break. So he's going to end up playing a smaller role. He's going to end up in the bottom 6. So all of the people who spent the entirety of January saying, well, you can't play Jason Robertson on a 4th line are going to eat shit when Jack Hughes spends a good chunk of these Olympics on the 3rd or 4th line because he's injured and they're trying to manage his minutes. It's really straightforward. Question these things. These people don't have a leg to stand on. And to your point about Bill Guerin, it's the same thing with Chris Drury. Bill Guerin doing I'm not going to explain my decision. Well, if you believed in them that much, you could. If you really had an ideological reason for it, you could come out and lay out an impassioned, descriptive. John Cooper was talking about it, I think, when it came to the point where John Cooper went on this beautiful 3-minute soliloquy about what a good teammate Braden Point was for not trying to gut it out going through the Olympics and letting somebody else get the opportunity because that's how much he cares about winning. I could dare make the same point about JT Miller. If you cared so much about winning, you would have sat out, got healthy, and got back into the lineup a few weeks later, but you wouldn't be dealing with a nagging groin, hip, and shoulder injury all simultaneously because you tried to play through the pre-existing injury. That's what I mean when I say gimmicks and narratives. Do you want to do it or do you just say it? And that's the thing. You said it before. You can say one thing, but what you do is ultimately how I'm going to judge you. And look, they still got to play the game. They very well could still win the gold medal. They absolutely are capable of winning the gold medal with the guys they got. Then Bill Guerin can get some credit. If they win a gold medal, they lose in a close game in the gold medal game, finish with silver, fine. perfectly fine. But I don't have to give credit to a guy who can't even be bothered to justify his decisions because of how insecure he is about being perceived. I don't care what people online think. Well, you do because you just said it. If you didn't, you were my I don't care what people online think shirt is asking many questions about whether or not I care. I don't care what the media thinks. Then why do you keep sitting down for features to say how much you don't care? It's all performative nonsense. That's all this is. It is posturing nonsense from people who can't be bothered to think they're beyond reproach. I'm not right about everything, but I can at least explain what my thinking was when I make a mistake or when I was wrong. That way I can try and learn from my mistakes as opposed to Bill Guerin trying to recreate the Miracle on Ice for the 46th straight year. There's a reason that happened 46 years ago and it happened one time in an exact perfect set of circumstances. It was literally called a miracle. That's not what you should be striving for. You should not be shooting for a miracle because those don't happen often. Those are once in a lifetime situations. Banking on that outlier is not a sustainable plan for anyone, even in a short tournament like an Olympics where you're only going to play 5 games.
By the way, FanDuel has Canada as favorites to win gold at 130, at plus 130. Team USA second at plus 190, and Sweden as third at plus 470. Everything else is in the 4 digits. Right now, USA is not the favorite to win gold, according to at least FanDuel. I don't know about other sports books, but like, you know, how much that would have changed with Jason Robertson or Cole Caulfield or whatever, as opposed to JT Miller. I don't know the answer to that. I would still have to wager, if I was a betting man, that Canada would probably still be the favorites, given how disgusting their lineup is. But I would wager that it'd probably be closer, like 170 maybe with Jason Robertson. And
I don't
that's
know. I don't think one player is moving a line to that degree
I
unless
kind of
it's
think I
McDavid,
kind of think
Matthews,
he
Eichel.
does. Yeah. Well, I'm saying that like Canada would still be the favorite. I'm not arguing that.
No, it's just
But
that one player doesn't really move a line to that degree. That's all.
maybe,
Any one player, like regardless of
yeah,
whom's, unless it's if Braden Point being out for the tournament, that could conceivably, because he was playing a big role. But
sure,
for a guy like Robertson, probably not. But still, to your point, yeah, they're not
maybe.
the favorite.
No, they're not the favorite. And when you're not the favorite, you need to eke out every advantage you can find in order to, if you're still not the favorite, try to find a way to get, a goal that bounces off of 9 legs, and that's how you win the game, right? Like you need to eke out these greasy ass plays, these greasy goals to get your team over the top. And you need to find every advantage at your disposal to be able to do that. And again, Robertson could have done it for you a lot better than JT Miller could. Cole Caulfield could have done that for you a lot better than JT Miller would, right now. And that's the frustration that I have with the Olympic team. It's like, okay, well, you can't hand it to Guerin for making these decisions when most people, I would say objectively, will disagree, and you aren't defending what you did. And if you won't tell people why specifically you made this choice, given how much noise there is surrounding like specifically Trocheck and Miller and specifically Jason Robertson, then like, if you're not confident enough in your decision to be able to go out there and successfully defend why you made that choice, then it can't possibly be a choice worth giving you credit for. If you cannot defend it, what am I giving you? Why should I praise you for it? And that's it's a big issue that we have to keep talking about it, because if we don't, we just lay down and die, and that's just not how things work. If we are participating in society, sure, curious, whatever, but we still want to make it better. We still want Team USA to win with the best roster they can possibly build. We want the Rangers to win with the best roster that they can possibly build. And when there are issues along the way that are self-inflicted, yeah, we're going to be loud about it. Like it'd be one thing if it's game one of the tourney, and for some reason everybody on Team USA gets like really sick. Hopefully, it obviously doesn't happen, but like in this like fantasy land, like if there were extenuating circumstances and like the entire roster like can't play or whatever, then and they lose, that's one thing. But if if Team USA flames out early, oh baby, there's gonna be issues. Hopefully they don't. Hopefully they win gold, and we can eat crow and all these things. But like, I'm very interested to see who the top performers on Team USA are and what the narratives are going to be, especially if Team USA wins gold.
It's why we play the games ultimately. Look, you play your 3 group stage games. You should go through to at least the elimination rounds, and you go from there. You hopefully avoid Canada until the final. I think talent wise, they're better than everybody other than Canada. I think with Canada, it's really close. I think the American defense is better. I think the Canadian forward group is better. And on paper, I trust Connor Hellebuck more than Binnington, but we'll see. Connor Hellebuck very much can turn back into a pumpkin at any given time, and Jordan Binnington, only when he has a big game on the line, turns into a good goalie. So the opportunities are there, and the field is as soft as it's going to be around them for a while. Sweden's an older group now. Finland, no Barkov, they're not really up to their full capacity. No Russia, which you could argue how good Russia would actually be, but they're at least a medal contender. And then anyone below that, the Czechs have a decent group. They're a little bit younger. But for the most part, this is as top heavy a field as it's been. It's very reminiscent of what the women's field looks like right now on that side of the bracket, where it's Canada, America, and everyone else. I mean, the Canadian women outshot Switzerland like 50-10 for the game. I mean, just as dominant as it gets. And that's the gap right now at the top end versus the low end. But I'm very excited we're here. It's been a long time coming. It's crazy. It's been since 2014. You look at some of those rosters they brought in 2010, 2014, 2016 World Cup of Hockey and the guys they brought. Like some of these guys had nice NHL careers. Like Brandon Dubinsky had a really solid 8-9 year career in the league, retired early because of his back issues. Canada was playing like Brad Marchand on their 4th line at the World Cup of Hockey in 2016. There are levels to this. And the first real time you have an opportunity to go gun for gun with Canada. And look, Canada brought Hagel. They were going to bring Cirelli, who's hurt. They brought Tom Wilson. They're not above silliness either. But when you're the reigning defending champs, you can get away with that. You have a bit more credibility versus what the U.S. is at right now. You want to call it?
Yeah. I mean, go Team USA. Hopefully they win.
All right, that'll do it for this week's edition of Liberty Blue. We'll talk to you guys next Monday, where hopefully we'll have some Olympic hockey to talk about. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts or over on YouTube. We'll see you guys real soon.
Later.